Good evening, everybody, and welcome to round 8 of the Divine iRacing series. My name is Olaf, and I'll be your commentator for tonight. As tonight, just like every other night, we'll be doing a short qualifying followed by a 50% race. And this time, the race will take place at the legendary circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. The drivers have all been refreshed after the winter break. Short break we've had since the end of December. As we can see, the first driver already out on track. First driver being Brass Monkeys. I'm going to quickly turn on the lap data and the full track map so you can also see what is happening in this qualifying session, as Brass Monkeys is going to be overtaken by Jan in the Aston Martin. And for the beginning of the qualifying, not much interesting will be going on. So, we're going to be taking a quick look at the current standings. Which you might have forgotten from before the break. We have Kaká currently leading by 25 points. So even if Marios wins this race, Marios in second place currently. Even if Marios wins this race, he does not take first in the standings unless he gets the fastest lap and Kaká falls out of the points completely. But with the driver standings being pretty split up at the top, we have something closer of a battle in the constructor standings. We have Alfa Romeo, the team of Kaká, leading the championship by 7 points. So with 294 points in first place, we have Alfa Romeo, and in 287 points, we have McLaren, the team of Marios. But Marios is not on his own. Marios is closely accompanied by Mihu in fourth place with 127 points of his own. So in terms of driver combination, it looks like McLaren has got more on their hands than Alfa Romeo does, as Jan starts his first flying lap of 2024 in Spa. Most drivers will be heading out very early on, except for drivers like Kaká we've seen in the past, waiting very late to go out. Currently still chilling in the pit lane. The qualifying session will be 18 minutes followed by a 50% race, as I said before, which means that the drivers will have some sort of feel of how the tires, the soft tire at least, will be performing, and it should be all softs. It is not all softs. We see two drivers out on the mediums, although it's only one qualifying session and the old tire rule has been scrapped this year. We have the Steps and Totucha on the medium tires on an out lap. The Steps now on a fast lap. So we'll see what happens there, if there's anything interesting going on there, or if this is just a trial to see how the medium tire feels. That is also a very valid point. Jan almost closing in the lap. Lap time should be around the mid 40s, maybe 1 minute 40. I believe is what the lap times will be. Here we go, Jan rounding out the final corners. We are going to see a 1 minute 42.3. A beautiful lap time there by the Aston Martin drivers. Mihu puts it in second place with a 144.2. Redoubts with a 144.3. Brass Monkeys a 145.5. So that 42.3 by Jan is a beautiful lap there, as Thok has already invalidated his lap. Needs to get a clean start. Wazar in the Ferrari, putting it in second place with a 44.2, just passing Mihu there. As Sparrow puts it in sixth place, a 45.7 in the Williams. So we see a few other drivers out as well. Let's see if we can get them on screen. I believe that is F1 Dino currently starting his lap. Paddy shooting up into second place, only 3 tenths behind Jan, and Tuchki also dropping a lap in very high up. The steps as well. But if you look at the tire compounds, we see that the steps is using a medium tire. Just like Totuccio, who will be putting it in 5th place. So the Alpine drivers have opted for the medium compound for their first laps. And it's packed out pretty well for the steps, putting a 42.6 in, just under a 10th below Paddy in 2nd place, who has set a lap on the soft tires. And ahead of Tutschke, who was also on the soft tires, by 5/10, almost 5/10. So that is quite a difference. And even Totuccia has set a pretty good lap compared to Mihu. There's almost 4/10 in between them. Mihu being very high up in the championship. Will be a big contender there. As we can see, Mihu now entering the pit most likely, or setting up for another lap, as this seems to be a cooldown lap. So we'll go on board real quick with Miu to find out if this lap can be improved or not, as he now gets overtaken, I think, by Sparrow, putting in a faster time. As Divine looks like to have a little issue on his lap. He's put down in 49.3. As F1 Dyno takes the lead, the provisional pole with a 42.3. Mihu now 2/10 faster, which would be good enough for P8. That's 2 whole positions on the starting grid for the race. A little bit of grass touching there. As we're approaching the most difficult part of the track, this corner is very difficult because you never know where to hit the apex, or even to hit the apex, or hit it twice. I've seen drivers do that as well. Touching a little bit of grass there as well, using as much of the track in Pujon as well. Touching some of the curb on the outside, but not on the inside. Very careful with that, as the curb on the inside of Pujon is quite high and can upset the car a lot. Late apex for the first part of Fanye, then into Campus, right-hander. Now 4/10 quicker already. Arkid in the AlphaTauri this time, putting in a lap time of a 42.6 in 4th position, just above the steps with the medium. So that is a comparable lap time with a compound softer, which is quite interesting to see. So will we see the Alpines do another lap with the softs? I hope we do, because those will be impressive lap times. If anything, Miu from 11th to 8th with a 43.7, half a second improvement at that. A very beautiful lap there by the McLaren driver. Now we see Murillo's here, right behind him, starting his first flying lap. Murillo's a title contender, so a little bit squirrely on the exit there of turn 1. So might be running a lower wing setting, which is one of the choices the drivers can make for this track, as it's got a few long straights from turn 1 to Lecombe, I believe, where we're coming up. Now, the entire first sector almost is flat out. So right here, there's a big braking zone. But until that point, from the exit of turn 1, that is completely flat. And the same goes for the final corner. I believe that is already sector 3. The first corner of sector 3 up until the bus stop chicane, which is just called the chicane, apparently. That is also completely flat out. So there's 2 very long straights where you can just slam the throttle down and not have to worry about anything. Which makes it a very difficult choice for drivers to either take high wing to get these sections as clean as possible, to get through Fanye, Campus, No Name, Lecombe, all those corners. Pujon even also requires quite some wing on it compared to these straights. But look at this. Fully flat. And then we have Blanchimont. Cleanly flat as well. Minimal steering inputs onto the big braking zone of the bus stop. Let's see where Murillo's can put his McLaren on the grid. Teammate in P10. And Murillo's himself now overtaking P10. Very close with Mihu. It seems like it's a bad track for this car, for these drivers. Now remember, this league is an equal performance league, meaning that both drivers will be driving with the exact same car. Here we see Mew dropping out of the way for Oranjeboom, who has not set a lap time yet, but will set one of a 44.7, putting it in 15th place. Let's see if we can spot some more drivers out on track. First one next is the steps on an out lap, so we will not be seeing that. Jan has made a mistake, gone off track, invalidated his lap, so that will not count. After that, it looks like we have... That is the wrong color. I apologize. These are very confusing. We have the Tucha, who's also 15 seconds slower and still on the same mediums as before, while the steps has chosen to switch to the softs. So he'll be putting in his lap now. I'm going to keep an eye on him as he goes in his fastest lap. As you can see, is set with the medium tire. And he's now running the soft. So we'll be able to see the delta on the top right of your screen between these two tires in performance. First sector already a 10th faster. It seems like the first lap of the steps was a pretty good one, if he's only able to improve 1/10. But then again, it is a flat out section. But the grip of the softs in Radion and in the source exit, of course, and into Rouge and Radion is a pretty big step up. So having only gained 1/10 in that section is a statement of how good the lap on the medium was. Now into Fanya. Very quick right left in succession. Final corner of sector 2. Let's see the delta on the top right. It is 4/10, almost 5/10. So if you can keep up this pace, that would be enough for pole position. But be careful, the drivers still have over 5 minutes, almost 6 minutes to go. So there's enough changes that are possible between all of these drivers. Now the Steps has claimed himself to be not the fastest driver on the grid, but will he be able to make this lap the fastest lap of the session? Yes, he will. By 3/10 he claims provisional pole position with a 42.0. A very beautiful lap there from the Alpine driver. Now back to the second Alpine driver, who's half a second down on his previous time on the same compound after only 3 or 4 laps. It's quite interesting to see how that changes his performance going into the pits as well. As we see, Divine Eye in the final sector has only put a lap time in of a 49.3. Going back into the pits, only has a little bit of time left to figure out what he's going to do with that car and with that time. Because he needs to have a proper time on the board or else he'll be starting last. As Arkid now on an outlap, taking as much space there on the final corner. You can see he almost went into the pit lane, almost crossing all of those lines. To gain as much of a run down towards turn 1. Barely missing the curb there. Very good exit as well, because that is one big straight line all the way up until Lecon at the final of this sector. Jan has already retired from the session, meaning their 42.3 is their final lap time. You see now Arkid having 0.02 seconds gained compared to the previous lap. So that is very close in terms of performance. It looks like he's driving, yes, he is driving on clean softs as is everyone else currently in the pits. Probably getting ready for a new run as well. They have 3.5 minutes left. A lap is 1 minute 42. So as soon as the timer hits 1 minute 50, the driver should be at least out on track with a little bit of margin for blue flags if they need to. Arkid now gaining a lot of time in sector 2. 3.5 tenths faster. Gained all of that time in sector 2. Very nice job there. Maybe a few setting changes on the tire pressure or the front wing One of the only changes they can make during qualifying after starting their first run. So they are not allowed to change anything on the suspension, the rear wing, or anything else. Now gaining half a second, almost putting it on pole with a 42.0 as well. Half a tenth behind the steps, putting his AlphaTauri on the front row for now. With emphasis on for now, because Mihu has just started a lap. A very strong driver, as we know from the McLaren drivers. We see, finally, look at the bottom of the scoreboard. You can see Kaká finally heading out of the pits, as is usual for this driver. He's been out of the pits last almost every event. He's now among the last to go out. Naismith also retired without having set a lap. Mihu almost going off track limits there. Over track limits, I should say. Off the track there. With a very wide exit. The drivers in front of him having blue flags. So they're all on an out lap, letting Mihu by very nice. Very cleanly. Taking so much speed through Puhan. These Formula 1 cars have so much downforce they can take that corner almost flat out. They can put down the throttle really early compared to other racing disciplines, like the GTs. They have to wait really long before they can start accelerating. But the Formula 1 car can accelerate so early. On his way to finish the lap. I've been too scared to check the delta, so I have not been checking the delta. But Mihu is now approaching the end of his lap, which will show us the time, but it spins. He spins out of the final corner, putting down too much throttle in the end, and then messing up his lap and also the start for the next lap. So he will not have enough time to start a new lap. So the time that he has set now will be the time on the board. He's going very slowly here, obviously very mad at himself because he will not have enough time to set a new lap. So this will be his final time as our championship leader Kaká now starts his lap around Spa-Francorchamps, just exiting turn 1, putting the pedal to the floor. As you can see, very small steering inputs here to go through there. A little bit too much even on the right hander of Eau Rouge. Hitting a bit of grass on the inside, hitting the limiter as the flag has dropped, so the drivers crossing the line now will be done. Smith now crossed the line, put it into third position, provisionally claiming his spot on the second row of the grid. Lazar Readouts and Oranjeboom also having their places locked in, as well as Orchid. Their times locked in, I should say, because the places can still change quite a bit. We see the other Ferrari of Tuchki now approaching the pit lane as he's invalidated his lap and is unable to set a time. Sparrow currently in P12, looking to get a little bit better start position there. Can he do it or not? Yes, he can, up to 10th position. But we have the car of Tucci very close and taking the third position of Smith. Finishing up the laps, we have Kaká putting it on pole position by a full 3/10. 2.5 tenths, I should say, on pole position. Kaká pushing the steps down to the second row. A phenomenal performance once again by the Alfa Romeo driver, putting him and Paddy in the top 3 with the Alfa Romeo car, making them the strong contender to win out on the championship battle today. But points are not won during qualifying, points are won during the race. So, that being said, qualifying is over. Drivers are currently finishing up their laps. getting back into the pits. As we'll be able to check out the final standings in just a bit. You can check them out already right now. Like, that's not that big of a deal. But as you can see, everyone putting a lap down on the softs. So even the Alpine drivers putting in great performances with a P2 and a P5 with the steps and Totuccio respectively. And here we have the man on pole, Kaka, with the chrome helmet design. There you have him. On pole position with a 1 minute 41.7, gapping P2 by 0.273 seconds. There we have the steps in P2, Paddy in P3, Orchid P4, Totuccio in P5, Smith in P6, F1 Dyno P7, Jan dropping down all the way to P8, Thok still being able to set a lap time even after that invalidation in P9, and Touchscreen rounding out the top 10. Further down we have Mrios, Divine Eye, Sparrow, Mihu, Waza, Redoubts, Oranjeboom, Brass Monkeys, Jaspars, and Nay Smith not setting a lap time and starting at the end of the grid. A very disappointing show from McLaren. They've been second place in the title battle for the constructors. I believe they were overtaken even on a few races ago by Alfa Romeo. So they were leading quite a bit. But now they've dropped down into second place by 7 points. And they needed a strong performance today. But if we look at the qualifying performance, it does not look like McLaren is there today. It looks like the Alfa Romeos are just that tiny bit quicker. Now, we will be waiting a tiny bit for the drivers to be ready for the race, as they have been instructed to wait a bit longer. We've had some issues before with desync, with all kinds of communication stuff. So the safest option here is to wait until the game puts us in the cars and we get ready for the formation lap. That being said, I am quite curious about the tire strategies. We've seen some drivers out on mediums and some drivers out on softs in the qualifying themselves. So maybe the mediums from the Alpines were just to see how fast they could go. Maybe they could save a soft compound for the race, which means they would be running medium soft soft or a hard soft soft strategy. I'm curious to see if there's going to be one stoppers in here, and it looks like there are. Way in the back, Jaspars has opted for the hard compound. Totuccio in the Alpine opting for a medium, which is opting for the soft, which is a different strategy from the steps on the mediums. F1 Dyno, Thok, and Redoubts also sporting the red soft compound, and the rest of the grid all on the medium. So not too many different strategies will be shown today, but I hope we at least get a nice, good battle for the lead, as we've seen Kaka and the steps really push each other, as was Orchid in 4th place. But remember, we also have Paddy in the mix, who has also shown himself to be a great driver and a great battler back in Silverstone. We have not seen a lap time from Naismith in the Red Bull all the way in 20th, so that might be a surprise performance, as well as the Williams of Jaspars running a completely different strategy from the rest of the grid, starting on the hard compound. And here we have the possible race strategies: softs to mediums and mediums to hards, which will be reversed for some drivers. I'm unsure if the soft to mediums will clear the race, but the medium to hard should clear the race at least. I think the soft runners will also try to go soft to hards, and Jaspars will be running hards to soft most likely, but the medium runners will indeed have the choice to go to either the hard compound or the soft compound, which is the safer option. If you bet on the soft compound, you're basically guessing, hey, I want to do soft, see how long it goes. If it drops off quickly, you have one choice, and that is to go onto the hards, or to go on the mediums and go back to the softs if you have another set available. Going on the hards basically says, alright, I'm going to be starting with a very, very long stint at the beginning, and I'll be going for the set that's left for the amount of laps that I have to go. And the mediums is the most versatile. You can go for the softs if you think I can run the rest of the race with this compound, but you will have to resort to the hards if it is a bit too long. All 20 drivers and cars now lining up on the grid, waiting for the 5 lights to go on and then back off. Here we go. All the drivers all ready. Lights will be going on soon. Or at least I hope they are. They should be going on soon. They're taking a very long time to go. Unsure what is going on. I will be contacting the drivers real quick and the stewards just to see what is going on. I am getting several messages from drivers also saying that they're stuck on the same spot. Now the lights are going on. 5 lights are on, and we are away as Redoubt has a drive-through penalty for jump start. As there's already a yellow flag in the start. Kaka getting away very well. Paddy as well on the inside of the steps, barely not taking that second position off of the steps. I'm shuffling further down. Yen and Thok battling a little bit. Waza dropping back a few places, but as we saw, that is Waza leaving the session and getting back in. Redoubts jumping the start, gaining a position. Naismith gaining 5 positions from the start. Very good one there. That trying to go for another one on the inside of Redoubt, making a very clean pass into the com. Very good job there as Paddy spins around and goes out. We can see him there sideways on the track in the sand. Sitting still now, has to recover as the steps has to follow Kaka in this battle. Tuchki now going past Jan. As Totuccio is also following closely. Naismith gaining another position there further in the back with the Red Bull. Totuccio now almost looking to go on the inside of Fanya there. Into Fanya there. Aiming to get even more of those positions down as the steps is losing out on this battle. Naismith gaining even more position as Divine Eye drops down a few. Overtaking Sparrow now on the back straight. As we see some more shuffling. Naismith overtaking his teammate for 10th position. The 2 Red Bulls now driving in tandem. As we see Totuccio rolling down all the way. He has spun out and is now sideways on the track. Has to wait. As Arkid is going into the pits. Seemingly with some damage maybe. Redoubts might also be doing the same. Yep, he's also coming into the pit lane. As they are dropping down some positions. Kaka still in first place. With the delta showing up a little bit weird. F1 Dyno now defending from Smith. Smith on the outside of the Camel Straight, but passing before Lecombe even happens. Very clean overtake as there's some more shuffling. Naismith overtaking Rios into Lecombe as well. Going through this section, the Red Bull driver has made up quite a few places. Top 2 have now gained quite a gap down to P3, as we see Smith and F1 Dino form a tiny train with Touchkey there as well. Jan almost on the edge there of DRS, gaining it and then losing it again. Paddy now overtaking Brass Monkey. Small bit of contact, but they both stay on the track. Paddy playing it safe, giving the position to Brass Monkeys, who goes off the track and gives Paddy the position after all. Brass Monkeys getting overtaken by Jaspars as well. Has to back up and cool down the tires a tiny bit. Get that sand and the dust off the tires and try again afterwards. Kaka setting the fastest lap. And fastest lap now being set by Smith in 3rd position, as DRS is now enabled and the deltas are finally behaving like they should, which makes it a bit nicer for me. F1 Dino still in the charge, as Thok already gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. F1 Dino now has DRS, but Touchkey does as well. What is going to happen here? F1 Dino looking but not going for the overtake, staying behind and choosing the safe option. But Touchkey is now very, very close behind. We'll be looking for a move somewhere here, but not yet. No Name is a very slow corner. Could have gone on the outside, but decided not to. Decided to stick around a little bit more, as Readouts in the back overtakes Mihu for 16th position. Mihu all the way down to 17th now. Rios actually jumping up a few positions to 8th, making this championship battle a bit more interesting. But for it to become completely interesting, we need Kaka to lose a few positions, or from Rios to go all the way back up. Touchkey following very closely, losing F1 Dino some time, because it appears that he is almost out of DRS range, as this long straight does not have DRS, so you have to rely completely on the slipstream, as Touchkey is doing into the next big braking zone. Will he go for the dive? He'll be covering up the inside. F1 Dino is, and that is no way Touchkey can now do anything, as there's a virtual safety car for the DNF of Oranjeboom, who has crashed, and it looks like he has crashed on the straight. You can see a tire on the track there, which will have to be removed. I don't think we can get a glimpse of his car anywhere close, but we'll have to wait for the safety car to be pulled back in again, so we can continue this battle, as Wazao is going into the pits, having changed to a different compound, to the hards, maybe thinking he can finish the race on this compound. The virtual safety car is still out, whereas we're waiting and maybe spotting some drivers, catching some drivers off guard, having a positive delta, which is not something you want. You need to keep your delta into the negative at all times, driving at a reduced pace. And of course you can play some games by backing up a bit too much, keeping your delta nicely in the negative, so you can stomp on the throttle maybe a second earlier, as the virtual safety car gets pulled in, and Readout is one of those drivers caught off guard and has to serve a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. Touchkey now all ready to resume this battle for possibly one of the podium positions here, as they are running on equal compounds here on the front. I believe they are. They are not actually. F1 Dino is running the soft compound, which makes it even more impressive that Touchkey is staying behind so closely with this Mercedes. A bit further behind now, not close enough to make a jump, but the other Ferrari, his teammate Waza, is close to Readout, so has to serve a drive-through penalty, but may be able to overtake before this even happens. Closing up to Blanchimont now, as they are almost side by side, very close on the gearbox there. Readout is covering up the inside. Little bit of contact there as Wazar goes on the outside and takes the position in the chicane, as Readout hops into the pits, as Miho goes a bit squirrely there on the exit. leaves him vulnerable now from behind. Has DRS to kind of patch things up as Sparrow gains a position on the straight from Divine Eye, using that Williams, using the straight line speed and the DRS there to gain a position. So we see Tutuccio also overtaking Redoubts as he is exiting the pits. Tutuccio, after a spin, being quite a bit behind. Thok now overtaking Mihu as expected. As there's a yellow flag there in the second sector. Looks like Divine Eye has had a little moment, but is running again. Doesn't appear to have any major damage, so we'll be running again and driving, maybe going into the pits for repairs, but it doesn't look like there will be any. Touchkey still on the chase. Small DRS train here of 3 cars, where Touchkey is as close as can be. F1 Dino covering up the inside. Touchkey not close enough to make a move. F1 Dino shooting a bit too deep. Touchkey may be able to get side by side as he spins around, goes sideways and hits the barrier ever so slightly. It appears that his end plate on the left side has come off. A bit too eager on the throttle, dropping down to 9th position, and maybe even has to pit on his next lap to get that damage fixed and going on to the hard tire, which will be his mandatory pit stop for the race. Which means that he will not be won't be expected back again into the pits unless he goes for a double softs, which is also a very possible strategy. Tutuccio now putting in the fastest lap on the medium compound, while there are still some drivers out on the soft like F1 Dino and Redoubts. Redoubts with the newer softs compared to the rest of the grid. Arkid now grabbing that fastest lap for himself with a 44.9, which is about 3 seconds slower than pole position was before. If we look at the big winners and losers of today, we can see that Naismith is all the way up into 6th from last. So he might be able to look for a last to first as Thok sends it very deep, almost hitting or even hitting the back of the Ferrari of Wazan into No Name. Makes up for it quite well. As F1 Dino gets a 3-second time penalty as Petty overtakes Touchkey. Touchkey probably having to slow down quite a bit with that end plate missing. It's on the left hand side, which makes the right handers a bit more difficult to take. So we see Wazan now overtaking Brass Monkeys and Jaspers as Mio is retiring from the session. A corner before that, and Brass Monkeys dropping down. Jaspers and it's not Wazan. It is Thok that is slowing down there. There's a safety car now. Wazan gaining a few positions there. Mihu having DNF'd and not finishing the race. While there's a safety car, all the drivers have time to get something going, as there's some driver swaps going on. I thought maybe people were doing illegal stuff, but no, they're all just heading into the pits as we're going to catch up with our leader of the race, Kaka, currently in first. The steps almost 5 seconds behind. Looking at the big winners and big losers of today, we have Naismith from last to 6th. And I believe this little train here from first all the way up to 6th already passed the pit entry as the safety car was called, so they will have to wait until they hit the pit line to see if they are going to go for new pits. And the biggest loss on this grid so far, we have one way at the back, Arkid, with 14 places, but he has already stopped twice as Redoubts just coming in for his first stop. Arkid now jumping up 1 spot. Having done his mandatory stop, and as expected, 1st to 6th have not stopped yet, as well as Brass Monkeys in 11th has also not stopped yet, which makes this a little bit interesting as well, as he's in the second pack of the cars right now on the grid. You can see 1st to 6th kind of being bunched up, then 7th to 13th also bunched up, and then we have a small grid, a small pack way further at the back as well. So here we see Kaká entering the pits there. We'll see what the rest is going to do. We see the steps also entering. Smith also entering. F1 Dyno following as well. And Jan and Naismith are going to go in for their stops too. Which leaves Mrios here. Currently in 7th position. Catching up and seeing if he can maybe overtake one of these drivers that are in the pits. He's slowing down quite a bit. So I do not believe he will be able to overtake one of these. Any of these drivers. As Naismith is already almost at the exit of the pits, crossing the line right about now, and there's no chance for Mrios to gain any position. The top 6 have all kept their positions. Only one driver who still needs to make the stop, which is Brass Monkeys in 11th position. The rest all covering different compounds. Funnily enough, you can see that Kaká has opted for the mediums, thinking he can maybe stretch it out until the end. I believe he's also started on the mediums, which means that he's doing a medium soft strategy. Most likely. The Steps and Smith opting for the hards, as well as Jan and Naismith. With F1 Dyno also going on the mediums, as Brass Monkeys retires from the session at the end of Eau Rouge and Radion. We might be able to see his car somewhere here. We will not be able to check that, as his car is already removed from the track. So we have 3 DNFs so far. Hopefully this will not impact the length of the safety car. And we'll be able to drive around as normally. Get the safety car in at the end of this lap. Maybe if our kid speeds up enough and gets close enough, the safety car will go in. We'll have to wait and see. As for now, the only drivers with penalties are F1 Dyno and Thok, both with 3-second penalties, which will be added to their time at the end of the race. These are penalties that are not allowed to be served during the pits. The only penalties you can serve during pits are those from contact, or speeding in the pit lane, or other kinds of penalties. The track limit penalties will be served, will be added, I must say, at the end of your racing time. This means that the battle for the podium is still very close. F1 Dyno might be able to shake things up by sticking his nose into the top 3 and then leaving penalties at the end to serve things up. For now, safety car will do another lap, as the AlphaTauri at the back has not caught up enough. And we'll go for another round. I'll quickly remind you of the standings if you've just tuned in, or if you have already forgotten. I'll give you a quick rundown of the current driver standings, which is Kaká in first with 185 points, with a 25-point lead over Mrios in second place, who has another 25-point lead over Tuchki in third. Tuchki currently sitting in 12th, scoring no points so far. Mrios in 7th, and Kaká leading the race, as he has done so many times before. Finishing first in the USA, in Austin, in Brazil, and in Bahrain. Scoring 2nd place in Silverstone last time around. And the only time he has finished but not on the podium is Australia, with a 4th position. So a phenomenal season from this Alfa Romeo driver, who has claimed the top spot in the constructors standings as well with his teammate Paddy, giving Alfa Romeo 294 points with 3 wins, leading McLaren by 7 points, who have 1 win under their belt. So with everyone caught up on the standings, we'll have to wait for the second half of the track. We're currently 9 laps in the race, and there are, after this one, 13 laps still to go. 22 laps total of this race. Most of the drivers that are running on the mediums now will not be able to finish their race. Luckily, a lot of them have switched to the hards, and Kaká has opted for a strange strategy. I believe he has started on the mediums as well. I believe. And F1 Dyno has started on the softs and switched to the mediums, thinking that the mediums can end the race, while Kaká is running on the mediums because he still needs to switch to another compound. And now we have confirmation from race control. The safety car will be in this lap. So there he goes. The gap is being formed, and it is all up to Kaká now to set the pace and lead the pack onto the second half of this race. Have to wait a bit longer for the safety car to clear a bigger gap, and he'll most likely drop the pedal at the end of the final corner to give him the biggest speed, as you're not allowed to overtake before the straight, the finish line. As he's taking as much space as he can, dropping down the throttle now and starting this train onto the turn 1 onto lap 10. Getting away quite well, not much action going on so far. We see some drivers getting really close to the rear of other drivers. A big gap being formed behind Paddy as well. So we've split the grid up to a few trains already. Not much going on just yet, as Wazza gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Drivers having to rely on the slipstream. F1 Dyno looking on the inside, but not making the move. Going very deep there and having to rejoin afterwards. Getting overtaken by Jan and by Nay Smith. Having Rios on his rear right now, looking to make a move as well. Paddy in 9th. After that spin very early on in the race, looking to gain more points for Alfa Romeo and solidifying their lead in the standings as Thok overtakes Totuccio. And Jaspers getting overtaken here by Redoubts, as he's looking on the outside, leaving almost no space on the outside. There's Redoubts pushing this Williams very far on the track. Maybe not leaving enough space, but that is up for the stewards to decide. Jasper's going a bit deep and getting overtaken by Arkid for last place now. We see the steps following quite closely to Kaká. This is one of the battles that's going to be very interesting. Paddy following Rios, looking for the inside defense, sticking it around the outside. Kaká losing a few positions as he's going into the pits. Maybe he's now changed his tires and realized this is not where he wants to be. This is not the compound that he wants to be on. Paddy has overtaken Rios in that action right there. Kaká now dropping back all the way to the back of the grid as everyone is bunched up. Everyone is backed up. As Wazza overtakes 3 wide now with Tutschke, his teammate, and Divine Eye. Divine Eye sticking behind and Tutschke leading this, but Divine Eye not giving up, gaining that position back from the Ferrari of Wazza. A very nice 3-way battle there on the start, but Wazza not out yet. Totuccio will be side by side with him and overtaking before Lacombe, cutting him off and gaining that position there. Thok and Arkid also battling. Thok going off the track, having to rejoin, but losing out on the position as Arkid now takes 13th place. F1 Dyno very close on the Aston Martin of Jan. Has a 3-second time penalty, so has to make every corner worth it. Following very closely, not close enough to make a move into Fanje. Very difficult place to make a move as well. As a really good exit there, going into campus and overtaking Jan before any of the straights happen, and is able to make a great exit here. And hopefully for him stay ahead. But Paddy is also getting close. Looking for a dive and a send and a half maybe. As Jan also looks to be sending not quite hard enough. All these drivers now in a train. Paddy has a very good stopping power there. Arkid overtaking Wazza now for 12th position. Paddy getting very close to the rear of this Aston Martin. There is a caution in sector 3 as Wazza has spun around a few times, losing his front wing and now losing his tire, DNFing right here on the scene. As everyone has already passed, it is only enough for a virtual safety car, meaning the drivers can slow down a tiny bit, especially these drivers, going through Radion, going through Eau Rouge, not needing to stress the tires too much, as Bazaar has now caused a full safety car to appear on the track, and everyone will be bunched back up. Which means that the safety car should not last any more than this and the next lap. And if it does, I will be very disappointed. So now we can finally start with the actual second half of this race. Currently in lap 12 of 22. F1 Dyno overtaking Jan, even though there is a safety car going on. Unsure if that was already taken or if he has to give that back. Or if that was just some hustling between them. The Jan overtook F1 Dyno. I didn't see what position he was in before. If we look at the standings, currently Naismith has gained 17th position, and Kaka, all the way in 16th, has lost the most positions, all the way in the back now. And he is running on the hard tire, which means that he must have had some issues. He's now currently 15 places down, as Naismith has 17 places up, which means that Marios and Paddy are currently in the battle of the Alfa Romeo versus the McLarens. Miu has DNF'd, and Kaka does not appear to be anywhere near the point scoring positions for now. But that can always change. Paddy going into the pits, as a few other drivers are as well. Sparrow is now leading this pack, staying out. Marios in second place, Divine Eye in third, the Steps in fourth. A lot of drivers entering the pits, as you can see, going for another tire change. I wonder what they're going to change to. Probably mediums and or softs. We can see Tutucho running the mediums, as well as Tutchke, Smith and Naismith also running on the mediums. The Steps going to the softs. F1 Dyno softs. Jan, Arkid, Redoubts and Kaka all going to the softs as well. So a lot of medium tires and a lot of softs here on the grid. Paddy with new hards doesn't think that the softs can cut it until the end of the race. So this will be a very interesting move. Very interesting to see what is going to be the final standing. As Kaka is still in 16th place. But with new hards, it seemed like. It's going to be very, very cool to see what is going to happen in the end of this race. That being said, I'm going to take a quick look, because I think Marios and Divine Eye can actually finish this race with the hard compound. But I don't think the softs of the Steps will be able to reach the end of this race. Some drivers have already switched off the softs in the first safety car, thinking that it doesn't last as long as they wanted it to be. Kaka's now too far behind to make this safety car go in, so the safety car will be going on for another lap. But will Sparrow's medium tires last the entire race? I'm also unsure. I believe the hard tires of Marios and Divine Eye can last till the end, which is going to make the ending very much worth watching. And if these are the results of the race in the end, that means that McLaren will retake that first position, as Divine Eye jumps into the pits when everyone is bunched up. It means that he doesn't think his tire can last, or he just wants a softer compound. Maybe he'll be switching to the mediums, and it looks like he is switching to the mediums, as well as Tutucho going for the softs. Divine Eye going for the mediums, thinking that that can save his race. Maybe he thinks that, maybe he thought that the hards would be too slow to compete with the medium compound all around him. Now opting for the mediums, thinking that the drivers ahead are also going to be running another pit stop in their strategy. Very curious and very interesting. We'll have to wait and see what comes after this. 8 laps after the safety car comes in. 8 laps of racing. Hopefully no more safety cars. This is number 2 so far, with a virtual safety car added as well, making it 3. 16 drivers out of the 20 left to race. So they're now in the second sector. Penalties are still the same as the previous safety car. 3 seconds for F1 Dyno and 3 seconds for Thok. Naismith currently in 5th position after starting in last. Kaka in 14th after finishing 1st in the qualifying session. So all these drivers that have performed well in the one session are going horribly in the second session and the other way around as well. Sparrow now leading this race in the Williams. And there we have the confirmation of safety car going in this lap. Sparrow now having control of the pace. Now it's his job to wait until he thinks the time is right before he drops the hammer back down. And says, hey guys, we're racing. But this time, I am the one deciding when we're going. Previously it was Kaka setting the start. Now it is Sparrow waiting, making Rios almost collide with him. And he has now very obviously dropped the throttle down as Rios has a great opportunity to capitalize on that slidey exit there. But is not yet close enough to do anything. F1 Dyno on the inside of Naismith, overtaking him in turn 1. Looking to stick ahead, but Naismith is not giving it up that easy. Some side-by-side battling here into Eau Rouge. Naismith losing out on this battle, but has the slipstream, and there's 1.5 seconds in front of F1 Dyno. So that means he does not get that much of a slipstream, but he does have the soft tires. Will he be able to defend? Going around the outside, the lead of the race has been decided as well. F1 Dyno winning out on here as Sparrow drops down quite a few positions. And is losing very hard. Currently in 9th position as the Steps has taken over the lead. Marios now in danger of losing another position. He had the lead, but is now overtaken by AWH Smith, taking 2nd place and leaving Marios behind. F1 Dyno has another chance to get something going there. Naismith having a very rough start, going off the track as well as he gets overtaken by quite a few drivers. It looks like he does not have a front wing anymore. So the driver starting last, making an incredible journey up into the top 3, now has to limp back to the pits without a front wing. Losing a lot of time there as we look at Sparrow, who has also suffered some loss on this start. Starting from the lead all the way back into 9th position now, losing 8 positions. We can see Thok going off the track almost. Getting overtaken by Kaka, but not wanting to give up the position just yet. Sticking on the inside, which means that Kaka now has the inside for himself. But as they're still side by side, as well as Sparrow side by side with Redoubt, holding on to the outside. Naismith has now retired from the session in the pits after that damage being just a bit too much. Now we see that Redoubt has crashed his car on the straight, and there's debris everywhere. His front wing is falling completely off of his car. Kaka now taking a few positions before the Virgil safety car has been put in place. The drivers can relax for a tiny moment here as we're waiting for the debris to be picked up. Hopefully not go to a full safety car. They'll have to watch their deltas for now. Making sure that they don't go over the limit, as Redoubt has done with the first virtual safety car, earning a drive-through penalty in the process. After the start, biggest loss here should be Naismith, starting in the top 3 now, having DNF'd down in 16th place. Sparrow also losing out to quite a few positions. Kaka from what I believe is to be 16th all the way up to 10th. Thok now making his way off the track, getting overtaken a few times as well. Does not have a front wing either. Wonder if that has to do something to do with a mistake under safety car or a collision. The Red Bull drivers are not in any luck if you look at their front wings, as they're all driving again. Tutschke quickly overtaking Arkid, catching him off guard at the end of the safety car here. Now a big train forming from 3rd all the way down now to 8th, as they're all side by side. Jan almost sending it up into Marios. Marios now losing out on a position as he has got the inside there, but the outside was just that tiny bit quicker. Jan and Tutschke all gaining positions. Now has to defend from Arkid, having the inside here. And Marios looking to go for a switchback, but I don't believe that exit is what he was looking for, and have to stick behind all the way in 8th position. As Thok now also retired in the pits after some big damage on his front wing. We can see that the battle for the lead still has not settled, as Smith is now closing in on that DRS for the lead of the race. Jan now also very close to one of those podium positions. Remember, he only has to overtake Paddy and stay within 3 seconds of F1 Dyno to be able to get that podium position. Divine Eye overtaking Jaspers into Lecombe. Looks like Jaspers actually slowing down quite a bit. Does not appear to have any damage. Arkid now following Tutschke through Puhan, who is following Jan. And this small train will be battling with DRS, most likely on the Camel Straight, and maybe even into La Source. Let's see if any of them can overtake here on the back straight. If anyone should be able to do it, it would be Paddy. Within half a second. Has slipstream on F1 Dyno, who does not have slipstream on anyone F1 Dyno. Going defensive, sticking on the inside, but not on the inside enough. Going back on the racing line, and Paddy slotting him behind. Not close enough to do anything, as Arkid goes very deep, overtaking Tutschke. And Tutschke doing the switchback, getting it back. And Arkid dropping back a few tenths behind that. Kaka now in 9th position after having such a horrible strategy, putting him in last place. Now fighting to get back as many positions as he can into the top 10 to gain more points for his team, as Paddy is currently in P4 with the DRS that F1 Dyno does not have. So let's see if he can overtake it. Yes, he definitely can. Can Jan do the same? Going on the inside, maybe even sending it on Paddy, but he decides to stick behind and just take F1 Dyno's place for the time being. We see Jan still being very close to Paddy. F1 Dyno having that 3-second time penalty. So for now would be dropping back 2 full places down into 7th, as this small train is currently being led by Paddy. And his teammate Kaka is closing in as well. You can see that there's only a 2-second gap, just over 2 seconds between Kaka and Arkid. Tutschke now very close to F1 Dyno as well. Wants to take this position. Has it on paper, but of course wants to defend and go on track as well. Really close now. Able to maybe send it into the bus stop chicane. Has a little look, but doesn't go for it. Arkid outbraking himself. Jan going sideways into the bus stop chicane, losing out on so many positions. And there is some drivers going side by side here. Arkid overtaking Kaka into 6th place. Yeah, now going further down and retiring from the session. A few drivers gaining more positions there. Kaka was 8th, now 6th. Right behind Arkid, who has outbraked himself against Tuchki. Tuchki gaining that position. Now looking to get that the final podium position off. Paddy is looking, as you can see, on the inside, but doesn't have enough speed to get an overtake done. Kaka also not close enough to do anything there. Mrios looking, sending it on the inside of F1 Dyno. Has the inside covered here. And takes the position of Totuccio. Sorry, that was F1 Dyno drops further back. So we've just lost a few positions there. So we got a 3-second time penalty as well for Arkid in 5th position. And F1 Dyno's all the way down into 10th. Totuccio sticking with Mirios. Even more interesting to see, we have the top 3 here being decided possibly within the next few laps, with Tuchki getting very close to Paddy, who does not have anyone to get a slipstream off, as F1 Dyno makes another mistake, goes off the track, does some lawn mowing duties in his spare time. Tuchki looking for a send. Paddy going slightly defensive, going back onto the line. Looks like there's some very close racing between these drivers. Very cool to see. Totuccio now almost at the rear of Mrios, but not close enough. Tuchki wanting to claim this position, but if he looks behind, he's got Arkid and Kaka, both also very close to each other, ready to get battling as well. Arkid having that 3-second time penalty will make it a bit more difficult as F1 Dyno goes into the pits. Kaka being in 6th. Tuchki having that DRS as well as Kaka. Now, both of these drivers overtaking, as Alfa Romeo is now holding 4th and 5th, which is going to be great for these standings, as F1 Dyno indeed retires in the pits. And we only have 12 drivers left on the grid. Paddy still keeping it very close with Tuchki. Only 2 laps remaining after this one. Paddy wants that final podium position for himself, for his team. But Tuchki needs these points for the championship as well, because Mrios is currently in 8th, not scoring that many points. And Tuchki in 3rd will be bringing home a big bag for himself and his team. The steps in first, now has a full second clear of Smith. So that means that Smith does not have the DRS, or should not have the DRS in any of these zones. But there's a small train here of 4 cars. You can see Tuchki followed by Paddy, then Kaka and Arkid. Arkid having a 3-second time penalty, so wanting to stick with these drivers to get that 3 seconds behind him. He currently has 6, so he has margin. But would rather just keep it clean and finish this race. Paddy now attacking. Tuchki will not have DRS. Paddy will. Every car behind him will as well. Opening up the flap now. Going side by side into Lecom. Paddy now has the position. Kaka almost ready to pounce as well. But Tuchki having to sit behind, looking on the inside, doesn't see an opening, and slots back in on the racing line, going a bit deep into No Name. Totuccio getting a 3-second time penalty there as well, so Arkid has even less to worry about now. He could just look straight ahead and maybe capitalize on some mistake of these drivers here. As we see Kaka, our current championship leader, in 5th, looking very closely, and his only thing in view is the gearbox of Tuchki. Wanting to gain some more positions, he is in reach of that podium. There's only a single second between him and that final podium spot, as the first 2 are probably reserved for the Steps and Smith. But in what order, we will find out soon enough. So we're approaching the final lap, and these drivers are also within a second of each other now. Tutschke now has DRS. Sends it a bit too deep. Kaká may be able to capitalize on that exit there from Tutschke. Going a bit wider. As you can see that Tutschke is on the mediums while Kaká is on the softs. We see them going wheel to wheel there. Tutschke braking very late into turn 1. Going defensive. Now has to use that DRS and the slipstream on the next straight. So he can defend from Kaká. Let's go take a quick look at how his battery is doing. He's almost on empty, but will use Paddy as a bit of a buffer there. Kaká looks to go 3 wide, but Tutschke very neatly closes it off. Paddy losing only 1 position to Tutschke, but almost not giving it up. A little bit of contact looks like there. Now into No Name. Kaká has to slot in as well, not gaining any positions. And leaving that to Tutschke. Kaká going very slippery there, almost pendulumed himself into the wall, but keeping it on the track. Arkid looking, but not close enough. As these drivers will be battling all the way up until the end. And who will also be battling will be Smith, almost out of battery. Look at the Steps, also almost out of battery, but there's even just a bit over a second in between these drivers. So this train will be worth looking at a tiny bit more on this final bit. We will look at the drivers that cross the finish line first. Still, everything is to be decided into the bus stop. As Kaká is going around the outside of Paddy. Paddy going defensive, but not defensive enough. Kaká able to go on the inside. As Arkid goes a bit deep, Kaká and Paddy finishing now. Who will be first of the two? It will be Kaká hitting 4th place, but the podium position going to Tutschke. And the win in the end going to the Steps in the Alpine. 2nd place for Smith in the Aston Martin. 3rd for Tutschke after this great battle, claiming the final podium position. Then we have Kaká and Paddy, the two Alfa Romeo, separated by 0.022 seconds. And then Arkid finishing very close behind, but having a gap of 7 seconds due to penalties. Then Tutuccio, followed by Mrios, Divine Eye, and Jaspers, claiming the final points position of this race. A very hectic race with a few safety cars, a few virtual safety cars, and some drive-thrus. We have now concluded the Belgian Grand Prix of Season 1, Division 1, with a great race and a win for Alpine. With these scores, we can see that Alfa Romeo have extended their lead of the championship. Here we have a final look at the podium before we go over to the final standings, where I can calculate a little bit of how the standings will look after this race. Because I believe Alfa Romeo have now increased their lead over McLaren by more points than they already had. Tutschke closing the gap between him and 2nd place. Kaká opening the gap between him and 2nd place. So 1st and 2nd now have more than 25 points, and 2nd and 3rd will have less than 25 points of a gap, making the title fight a bit less interesting. Smith taking home the extra point for the fastest lap. As you can see here, Tutschke starting 10th, finishing 3rd, having had a great race. Jasper starting 19th, but finishing 10th, capitalizing on a lot of those DNFs way at the back, as you can see. Everyone down from, I believe, 13th, yes, has indeed been declared as a DNF. Kaká from 1st down to 4th, the Steps making a great win from having provisional pole for quite some time, almost having the fastest lap in there as well, and now converting that front row start into a win. Very beautiful race from all of these drivers. Very close battles, some contact, but with that we will be closing off the stream, and I want to thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.